Captain stood on the bridge of the Dawn's Edge, staring at the screens in front of him. His face remained calm, but inside, his heart was beating faster. The view outside was terrifying. 300 alien warships surrounded his small exploration vessel. They looked like metal monsters floating in the darkness of space, their weapons pointed directly at his ship. "Captain, they're blocking all our exit routes," said from the navigation console. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, checking every possible direction. "We can't jump to. They've created some kind of blocking field around us." Nodded slowly. He had expected this. For weeks, human intelligence had been warning that the Dominion Empire was planning something. The Dominion was a group of 12 different alien species who had joined together. They all shared one common fear: humans were expanding too fast across the galaxy. "How long until they contact us?" asked. The weapons officer checked his screen. "Any second now, sir. Their main flagship is moving closer. It's huge, at least 10 times our size." The young officer was right. A massive ship was slowly approaching through the formation of warships. It was dark red, covered in sharp edges and strange symbols. This was the Dominion's way of showing power. They wanted the humans to feel small and helpless. A loud beep filled the bridge. Someone was trying to communicate. "Put them through," ordered. The main screen changed. An alien face appeared. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on its face. Its skin was purple and covered in scales. When it opened its mouth, rows of sharp teeth became visible. A mechanical voice translated its words into human language. "Human vessel, you are surrounded by the Dominion Empire fleet. You have entered our territory without permission. This is a violation of our space." The alien's 4 eyes stared at without blinking. "But your crime is much bigger than this. Your species has been spreading across the stars like a disease. You build colonies on worlds that should belong to others. You take resources that are not yours." Kept his expression neutral. He clasped his hands behind his back. "We have not violated any treaties. The worlds we have settled were unclaimed. No species had ownership of them." The alien made a sound like grinding rocks. It might have been laughter. "You humans always hide behind words and rules, but we see the truth. In 50 years you have spread to over 200 star systems. You grow too fast. You are dangerous." "We are explorers," replied. "We seek knowledge and new homes for our people. We have not attacked anyone." "Not yet," the alien commander hissed. "But you will. All young species are the same. First you explore, then you expand, then you conquer. The Dominion has existed for 3,000 years. We have seen this pattern many times. We will not wait for you to become a threat." Down in the engine room, Myra was working on something. She was the chief engineer and her hands moved with practiced skill across a complex panel. Sweat dripped down her face. The room was hot, filled with the humming of the ship's power core. She whispered to herself as she worked. "Just a little more time. Come on, just hold together a little longer." Back on the bridge, the alien commander continued speaking. "The Dominion Council has made a decision. Humanity must stop all expansion immediately. You will dismantle your colonies in this sector. You will return to your home system and stay there. You will limit your population and your fleet. If you agree to these terms, we will allow your species to survive." His hand moved closer to the weapon's controls. His jaw was tight with anger, looked at, waiting for orders. The medical officer stood near the back of the bridge. His face had gone pale. Took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, the blue planet where humans had been born. Humanity had climbed from caves to the stars. They had survived ice ages, wars, diseases, and disasters. They had split the atom, walked on their moon, and then reached for other suns. And now this alien wanted them to crawl back into a cage. "No," said quietly. The 4 eyes of the alien commander widened. "What did you say?" "I said no." His voice was stronger now. "Humanity will not stop exploring. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not limit ourselves. We have the right to exist, to grow, and to reach for the stars. No one can take that away from us." The alien's face twisted in anger. "You are one small ship. We are 300 warships. You have no weapons that can harm us. Your shields will break like glass. You will die in seconds, and then we will go to your colonies and do the same to them." Allowed himself a small smile. This seemed to confuse the alien commander. "You seem very confident," said. "You have more ships, you have bigger weapons. By all logic, you should win this fight easily." He paused. "But you made one mistake." "What mistake?" the alien demanded. "You assumed we came here unprepared. You assumed we didn't know you were coming. You assumed humans are easy to defeat." Smile grew wider. "You should have studied our history better. When humans are cornered, when we are threatened with extinction, we don't surrender. We fight. We adapt. We find a way to win." The alien commander made that grinding sound again. "Brave words from a dead man. I give you 1 hour to reconsider. If you do not agree to our terms, every ship in this fleet will fire on you at the same time. There will be nothing left of your vessel, not even dust. 1 hour, human. Think carefully." The screen went black. The bridge was silent for a moment, then spoke. "Captain, those are not empty threats. I've analyzed their weapons. If they all fire together, our shields won't last more than a few seconds." "I know," said. He pressed a button on his chair. "Myra, how much longer?" The engineer's voice came through the speakers, slightly breathless. 20 minutes, Captain. Maybe 25. The connections are more complex than I thought." "You have 15 minutes," told her. "Understood, sir. I'll make it work." Turned in her chair. "Captain, what exactly is the plan? They really do have us surrounded. Even if our engines work, we can't outrun 300 ships." Looked at each member of his crew. Young faces, nervous but trusting, they believed in him. They believed in humanity. He would not let them down. "We're not going to run," he said. "We're going to send a message that will echo across the galaxy, one that every species will remember." He looked out at the alien fleet surrounding them. "We're going to show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The hour was counting down. Outside, 300 warships waited like hungry predators. Inside the Dawn's Edge, a small human crew prepared for something the galaxy had never seen before. The minutes ticked away slowly. 45 minutes had passed since the alien commander gave his ultimatum. On the bridge of the Dawn's Edge, the crew worked in tense silence. Each person focused on their task, but everyone could feel the weight of what was coming. Checked the medical supplies for the 10th time. His hands shook slightly as he organized emergency kits. He was not a soldier. He was a doctor who had joined the exploration service to help people, not to fight wars. But here he was, surrounded by an armada that wanted to destroy everything he knew. "Medical bay is ready," he reported, his voice quieter than usual. "Though I'm not sure what good it will do if they hit us with everything they have." Heard the fear in the doctor's voice. He understood it. Fear was natural, but humans had learned long ago that fear could be controlled, used, and turned into strength. "Have faith," said. "We're still here, aren't we? Still breathing, still fighting." Suddenly straightened in his chair. He had been working on something at his weapons console for the last 30 minutes. "Captain, I've finished the analysis. The Dominion fleet is arranged in a standard encirclement pattern. They think they have us trapped, but there's something interesting." "What is it?" asked. "Their formation has weak points, small gaps in their sensor coverage. They're overconfident. They think one small human ship can't possibly escape or fight back, so they haven't maintained strict discipline in their positions." Brought up a tactical display. Red dots represented the alien ships, surrounding a single blue dot in the center. If we were trying to escape, these gaps would be useless. We'd be destroyed before we got halfway through, but for other purposes. He left the sentence unfinished, but understood. He nodded approvingly. Myra's voice came through the speakers again. "Captain, I'm done. The system is active and ready. All connections are stable. We can transmit whenever you give the order." "Excellent work, Myra. Return to the bridge." Had been quiet, but now she spoke up. "Captain, I need to know what we're doing. My navigation console is showing strange readings. There are coordinates being prepared for transmission, but they're not normal jump coordinates. They're different. Multiple points across this entire region of space." Stood up from his command chair. He walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each crew member. It was time to tell them the truth. "3 months ago," he began, "human intelligence discovered that the Dominion was planning to take action against us. They were tired of watching humanity expand. They wanted to stop us before we became too strong. The Dominion Council held secret meetings and made plans." His eyes widened. You knew they were coming." "Not exactly when or where," admitted. "But we knew they would make a move soon, so humanity made preparations. The Dawn's Edge was sent to this sector not for exploration. We were sent here as bait." "Bait," repeated, shocked. "The Dominion needed to feel confident," explained. "They needed to believe they had the advantage. One small exploration ship far from help seemed like the perfect target, so we gave them what they wanted. We let them surround us. We let them think they had won." Was beginning to smile. He understood military strategy. While they focused on us, humanity was doing something else. "Exactly," confirmed. "For the past year, human ships have been secretly deploying thousands of small satellites throughout this sector. The Dominion never detected them because they weren't looking for them. These satellites are equipped with technology that most species would consider impossible." The door to the bridge opened. Myra entered, wiping oil from her hands with a cloth. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "The transmission array is ready, Captain. We can activate the entire network with one signal." Check the countdown timer. 15 minutes remained. "Not yet. First, we give them one more chance." He returned to his command chair and opened a communication channel to the Dominion flagship. The alien commander's face appeared on screen again. The creature looked pleased, probably thinking the humans were ready to surrender. "Human Captain, your time is almost finished. Have you made your decision?" "I have," said calmly. "But before I give you my answer, I want to tell you something. Your species, all 12 of them in the Dominion, have been traveling through space for thousands of years. You've seen many worlds. You've met many species. You believe you understand how the galaxy works." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Get to the point, human." "The point is this. You don't understand humans at all. You see us as young and weak. You think that because we've only been in space for a few decades, we're easy to defeat. You think that bigger fleets and more weapons mean automatic victory." Leaned forward. "But you forgot to study the one thing that makes humans different from every other species you've met." "And what is that?" the alien asked mockingly. "Earth," said simply, "are trying to kill us for millions of years. Ice ages that froze entire continents, volcanoes that darkened the sky, earthquakes that destroyed cities, storms that sank ships, diseases that killed millions. Earth was a nightmare world, and yet humans didn't just survive. We thrived. We learned something that most species never learn." The alien commander was no longer smiling. Something in his voice had changed. There was no fear there, no doubt, only absolute certainty. "We learned," continued, "that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a weapon or a fleet. It's the environment itself, nature, the forces that surround us. And we learned how to turn those forces into tools, into weapons, into allies." Began entering commands into her navigation console. The special coordinates that had been prepared were ready to transmit. Her finger hovered over the activation button, waiting for the captain's order. "You should have studied human history more carefully," said, his voice hard as steel. "You should have seen what humans do to their enemies. We don't surrender, we adapt, we overcome, we win." The alien commander's face showed anger now. "Enough of this. Your words mean nothing. You have 10 minutes left, then you die." No, said quietly. You have 10 minutes to leave this sector, because in 10 minutes you're going to understand what it means to fight humanity, and by then it will be too late to run. He cut the communication before the alien could respond. Activated the weapon systems, not to fire, but to bring the ship to full combat readiness. Shields at maximum, all systems ready. Myra begin charging the transmitter, ordered. The engineer's hands flew across her console. Charging now, at full power in 90 seconds. Prepare the signal. Signal prepared, Captain. Ready to transmit on your mark. Stood straight, his fear replaced by determination. If this was humanity's stand, he would be part of it with pride. The countdown reached 5 minutes. Outside, the 300 Dominion warships began moving into firing positions. Weapon ports opened. Energy began building in their cannons. They were preparing to destroy the Dawn's Edge completely. Captain said, watching the alien fleet. They're preparing to fire, all ships, this is it. Watch the timer, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. Transmitter at full power, Myra reported. 2 minutes. On my mark, said, send the signal. The alien commander's face appeared on screen again, uninvited. Your time is up, human. Any last words? Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something their enemy did not. Yes, he said. Just one sentence, one warning for you and your entire Dominion. You surrounded one human ship thinking you had trapped us, but you made a fatal mistake. You forgot that humans don't need to outnumber their enemies. We just need to control the battlefield. And out here in the void of space, the battlefield isn't a place. It's the sky itself. He made a sharp gesture, transmit now. The navigator pressed the button. A powerful signal burst from the Dawn's Edge, spreading in all directions. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sky began to change. At first, it was subtle, a shimmer in the darkness of space, like heat waves rising from hot ground. The Dominion ships didn't notice it immediately. They were too focused on preparing to fire their weapons at the small human vessel. Then the shimmer grew stronger. On the bridge of the Dawn's Edge, Myra watched her screens with intense concentration. Network activation confirmed. All satellites are responding, beginning spatial distortion sequence. Navigation console started showing strange readings. Captain, space around us is changing. The normal coordinates aren't working anymore. It's like the map of stars is being rewritten. That's exactly what's happening, said. He opened a channel to the entire Dominion fleet, forcing his transmission onto every ship. Attention, Dominion fleet. What you're about to experience is something new, something your species has never encountered before. We call it spatial manipulation. The alien commander's face appeared again, but now there was uncertainty in his expression. What are you doing, human? What is this? About 5 years ago, explained, human scientists discovered something near a pulsar in the Crab Nebula. Space itself was bending and twisting in ways that shouldn't be possible. Most species would have avoided that area. Too dangerous, too unpredictable, but humans, we studied it. We sent probes, then ships, then researchers. We wanted to understand it. The shimmer around the Dominion fleet was becoming more pronounced. Some of the alien ships were starting to drift slightly, their position systems no longer working correctly. And we did understand it, continued. We learned that space is not empty, it's not nothing. It's something that can be bent, folded, twisted, and shaped. Just like humans learned to bend metal, shape stone, and harness electricity, we learned to manipulate space itself. On the Dominion flagship, alarms were beginning to sound. The alien commander barked orders in his own language. His crew was reporting problems. Navigation systems were failing. Sensors were showing impossible readings. Some ships were appearing to be in 2 places at once. Impossible, the alien commander hissed. Space cannot be controlled. It is too vast, too powerful. That's what people said about the oceans on Earth, replied. That's what they said about the sky when we wanted to fly. That's what they said about space itself when we built our first rockets. Humans have a bad habit of making the impossible into reality. Myra increased the power to the satellite network. Outside, invisible to the eye but detectable by instruments, thousands of small satellites were generating overlapping fields. These fields weren't shields. They weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were something far more sophisticated. They were changing the properties of space itself. Watched his tactical display with amazement. Captain, their fleet is losing cohesion. Ships are moving apart from each other. Some are trying to correct their positions, but they're making it worse. They can't figure out where they actually are. One Dominion ship, trying to move forward, suddenly found itself moving backward instead. Another ship turned left but ended up spinning in place. A third ship attempted to fire its engines and shot off in a completely random direction, nearly colliding with two of its own fleet. The alien commander was shouting now, "Stop this, turn it off. This is a violation of natural law." Natural law laughed. "We're not violating anything. We're using it. This is physics, just physics that your species never bothered to explore. You were comfortable with your old technology, your old ways, but humans are never comfortable. We always push further." The distortion field intensified. Now the effects were visible even to the naked eye. Space around the Dominion fleet was rippling like water. Stars in the background seemed to stretch and compress. The darkness of space itself appeared to be breathing. Phase 2 ordered. Entered another command. The signal changed and the satellite network responded. Reality began to fold. From the perspective of the Dominion ships, it looked like the universe was cracking. Lines of distorted space appeared, spreading like lightning through the void. These lines connected the satellites, creating a web of manipulated space that surrounded the entire alien fleet. And then through these cracks in space, something new appeared. Human ships. They didn't jump out of. They didn't emerge from wormholes. They simply appeared, sliding out of folds in space itself as if they had been hidden behind an invisible curtain. 1 ship, 5 ships, 20 ships, 50 ships. His console lit up with identification signals. Human fleet detected. I'm reading the dreadnought Indomitable, the cruisers Valor and Defiance, carriers Storm and Thunder. Captain, it's the entire Third Fleet. Let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. We're not alone. We were never alone, said. The Third Fleet has been here the whole time, just in a different part of space. Or perhaps I should say in a different fold of space, waiting for our signal. The largest human ship was the Indomitable, a massive dreadnought that was almost as large as the Dominion flagship. On its bridge, Admiral sat in her command chair, watching the displays with satisfaction. She was older than her hair showing streaks of gray, but her eyes were sharp and her voice was strong. All ships, this is Admiral, maintain formation around the Dawn's edge. Do not fire unless fired upon. We're here to make a point, not to massacre them. The human fleet moved into position with practiced precision. They spread out, surrounding the Dominion ships just as the Dominion had surrounded the Dawn's edge. But now the numbers were different. 300 alien ships faced 50 human ships, but those 50 ships had the advantage of preparation, positioning, and something the Dominion had never encountered before: control of space itself. The alien commander's face on screen had changed completely. The arrogance was gone. The mockery was gone. What remained was confusion and the first hints of fear. How did you hide an entire fleet? Our sensors would have detected them. We scanned this entire region. You scanned normal space, explained. But we weren't in normal space. We were in folded space. Imagine a piece of paper. Now imagine folding that paper so 2 points that are far apart touch each other. That's what we did. We folded space and our ships waited in the fold. To you, they were invisible. To us, they were always nearby, just in a different layer of reality. Myra was adjusting the satellite network, fine-tuning the distortion field. "Captain, the field is stable. We can maintain this for hours if needed. The Dominion ships are completely disoriented. Their weapons systems can't get target locks because they can't trust their sensors." Admiral opened a general channel. Her voice boomed through the void, reaching every ship in both fleets. "This is Admiral of the Human Third Fleet. I am addressing the Dominion Empire. You came here today to threaten humanity. You surrounded one of our ships. You demanded that we surrender, that we stop exploring, that we make ourselves small and afraid. You believed that superior numbers meant automatic victory." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But you were wrong. You see, humanity has fought wars on there for thousands of years. We've fought on land, on sea, in the air, and in space. We've learned every trick, every strategy, every advantage that can be gained. And the most important lesson we learned is this: the side that controls the battlefield controls the battle." Several Dominion ships attempted to fire their weapons at the nearest human vessels. Energy beams and missiles launched, but the spatial distortion field bent their trajectories. Weapons that should have hit their targets curved away, flying off into empty space. Some weapons even curved back toward the ships that fired them, forcing those ships to use their own defenses against their own attacks. "Your weapons are useless," continued. "Your sensors are lying to you. Your ships can't navigate properly. You're trapped in a cage of twisted space, and we control every aspect of that cage. We could destroy your entire fleet right now, every single ship. It would be easy." Confirmed this quietly too. "She's right, Captain. With their targeting systems disabled and their navigation compromised, our fleet could pick them apart one by one. They'd be helpless." But Admiral wasn't finished. "However, humanity is not interested in genocide. We're not interested in conquest. We came to space to explore, to learn, to find new homes for our children. We never wanted war, but we will not be threatened. We will not be caged. We will not surrender our right to exist among the stars." The spatial distortion around the Dominion fleet continued to intensify. Some of the alien ships were experiencing time dilation now. From their perspective, time inside their ships was moving normally, but outside, everything was moving at different speeds. One ship might see the ship next to it moving in slow motion. Another might see stars aging rapidly in the distance. It was disorienting, terrifying, unlike anything the Dominion species had ever experienced. "This is your new reality," said to the alien commander. "This is what humanity brings to the galaxy. We don't just use the tools we're given. We create new tools. We bend the rules. We turn the environment itself into our ally. You wanted to know if humans were dangerous. Now you have your answer. We're more dangerous than you ever imagined, not because of our weapons, but because of our minds. Because we never stop learning, never stop adapting, never stop finding new ways to survive and thrive." The alien commander's 4 eyes stared at the screen. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. What could he say? His mighty fleet was helpless, trapped in a web of distorted space, surrounded by ships that could strike at will. The Dominion had come to deliver a threat. Instead, they had received a demonstration of human power that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. For a long moment there was silence. The Dominion fleet hung suspended in twisted space, unable to navigate, unable to target, unable to do anything except wait. Admiral's offer hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. Then the alien commander made his decision. "All ships," he transmitted to his fleet, his voice filled with rage and desperation. "Full assault, target all human vessels, fire everything, kill them all." Shook his head slowly. Wrong choice. 300 Dominion ships opened fire at once. The void lit up with energy weapons, missiles, torpedoes, and plasma charges. It was a display of firepower that could have destroyed a small moon. The light was so bright that the Dawn's Edge screens automatically dimmed to protect the crew's eyes. But almost none of it reached its targets. The spatial distortion field that surrounded the Dominion fleet bent space in unpredictable ways. Energy beams curved away from their intended targets. Missiles spun in circles, their guidance systems unable to make sense of the distorted coordinates. Plasma charges exploded harmlessly against invisible walls of compressed space. The few weapons that did manage to reach human ships were easily stopped by shields. "Their weapons are hitting their own ships," called out in shock. She watched her tactical display as several Dominion vessels were struck by friendly fire. The aliens had fired so many weapons in so many directions that, in the confusion of twisted space, they were damaging themselves. Admiral's voice came through the communications channel, cold and commanding. "All human ships, weapons free. Show them what happens when you fight humanity." On the Indomitable, Weapons Officer Lieutenant Jin activated the Dreadnought's main. Unlike the Dominion's energy weapons, human used simple physics. Accelerate a dense metal projectile to incredible speeds and let kinetic energy do the rest. And in distorted space, where energy weapons bent and curved, solid projectiles followed more predictable paths. The projectile crossed the distance in less than a second and punched through a Dominion cruiser's shields like they were paper. The alien ship's hull cracked open, atmosphere venting into space. "Direct hit," Jin reported, already targeting the next ship. Across the human fleet, weapons came alive. But they weren't aiming randomly like the Dominion had done. Each human ship had been practicing in distorted space for months. They knew how weapons behaved in twisted reality. They knew how to calculate trajectories when space itself was curved. They knew how to fight in conditions that would drive other species mad. On the Dawn's Edge coordinated with the fleet's targeting systems. Dominion cruiser at Mark 7 is trying to reorganize their formation, sending coordinates to the Valor. The human cruiser Valor adjusted its position and fired a spread of missiles. The missiles flew through the distorted space, following paths that only made sense to those who understood spatial mathematics. They struck the Dominion cruiser from 3 different angles simultaneously, overwhelming its shields. But Admiral wasn't just using conventional weapons. She gave Myra a new order through the fleet network. "Increase distortion in Sector 4. Show them what we can really do." Myra's fingers danced across her console. The satellite network responded, focusing more power into one section of the battlefield. The spatial distortion intensified dramatically in that area. 50 Dominion ships that happened to be in Sector 4 suddenly experienced something horrifying. Time itself began to behave strangely. Some ships began moving in slow motion relative to the rest of the universe. Their crews watched in horror as seconds passed for them while minutes passed outside. Their ships aged months in moments. Hull metal corroded. Systems failed. Crew members felt themselves aging rapidly, their bodies breaking down as time attacked them. Other ships in the same sector experienced the opposite effect. Time slowed down for the rest of the universe while it moved normally for them. They watched their sister ships fire weapons in extreme slow motion. They saw explosions expand like flowers blooming, beautiful and deadly, taking minutes instead of milliseconds. The psychological effect was devastating. Monitoring communication channels heard the screams and pleas coming from those Dominion ships. "Captain, they're breaking. Their crews are panicking. Some are reporting that their reality is falling apart." "That's because it is," Myra said quietly. "From their perspective anyway, space and time are connected. When you distort one, you affect the other. We're not just bending space. We're bending the rules of reality itself." Human fighter squadrons launched from the carriers Storm and Thunder. Led by Commander, these small, fast ships dove into the chaos of distorted space with confidence. Unlike the large Dominion vessels, the fighters were small enough and agile enough to navigate through the spatial anomalies. "Gold Squadron, follow my lead," transmitted. She twisted her fighter through a fold in space that looked like it should be impossible to navigate. Behind her, her squadron followed with practiced precision. They had trained for this. They had flown through artificially created spatial distortions dozens of times in simulation and practice. The Dominion ships tried to target them, but it was useless. The fighters appeared to be in multiple places at once, a result of light bending through the distorted space. Targeting computers couldn't lock on. Human pilots, however, could rely on their instincts and training. They fired missiles and bursts, striking Dominion vessels with precise accuracy. One Dominion battleship, larger than any human ship in the fleet, attempted to break free from the distorted zone. Its captain fired engines at full power, trying to brute force his way out. For a moment, it looked like it might work. The ship moved forward, pushing against the barriers of twisted space. Then Myra adjusted the field. The space in front of the battleship compressed suddenly, and the space behind it expanded. The battleship found itself moving backward while its engines were pushing forward. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic. The ship's structure couldn't handle the contradictory forces. Metal screamed and tore. The battleship broke apart in a shower of debris. Dominion forces have lost cohesion, reported. They're no longer fighting as a coordinated fleet. Individual ships are trying to survive any way they can. Some are attempting to surrender. Check the battle map. In less than 15 minutes, half of the Dominion fleet had been disabled or destroyed. The other half was trapped, unable to fight effectively, unable to run. It was a massacre, but not one conducted with superior numbers or bigger guns. It was a victory of knowledge, preparation, and the willingness to use the environment as a weapon. Admiral opened a channel to the Dominion flagship. This can stop now. Order your ships to power down their weapons. Accept defeat. Live to see tomorrow. The alien commander's face appeared on screen again. His scales had turned a darker shade of purple, a sign of stress in his species. His 4 eyes moved frantically, looking at screens that showed his fleet being systematically destroyed. You are monsters," he whispered. "What you're doing to space, to time, to reality itself. It's unnatural, it's wrong." "It's physics," replied. "Just physics that you never learned. And before you call us monsters, remember that you came here. You surrounded us. You threatened us with extinction. You fired first. All we did was defend ourselves with the tools we created." Another wave of Dominion ships fell to human weapons. Fighters strafed damaged vessels, punched through hulls, and the spatial distortion continued to twist reality, making it impossible for the aliens to mount any effective defense. The alien commander's pride finally broke. His 4 eyes closed for a moment. When they opened again, something had changed in them. The arrogance was completely gone, replaced by the simple desire to survive. "Stop," he said quietly. "Please stop the attack, we surrender." Admiral held up her hand, and across the human fleet, weapons ceased firing. The spatial distortion remained, keeping the Dominion ships trapped, but the assault ended. The sudden silence after so much violence was almost shocking. "Transmit your surrender to all ships in your fleet," ordered. "Order them to power down weapons and shields. Any ship that refuses will be destroyed." The alien commander nodded and began transmitting orders. Throughout the Dominion fleet, weapons powered down. Shields dropped. The once mighty armada that had come to threaten humanity sat helpless in twisted space, defeated not by superior numbers but by superior knowledge. Watch the Dominion ships comply one by one. "Captain, they're actually doing it, all 300. Well, the one's still functional anyway. They're surrendering." "Good," said. He felt no joy in this victory, only relief. Humanity had proven its point. They had shown the galaxy what would happen to those who tried to cage them, but he took no pleasure in the destruction. Each alien ship contained living beings, sapient creatures with families and dreams. This had been necessary, but it was not something to celebrate. Checked casualty reports from the human fleet. Minimal damage to our ships, sir. Some minor injuries from crew members being thrown during evasive maneuvers. Nothing serious. Zero fatalities on our side. And the Dominion asked. His face grew somber. Approximately 47 ships destroyed completely. Another 93 severely damaged. Estimated casualties in the thousands. Thousands of lives lost because their leaders had underestimated humanity. Felt the weight of that. War was terrible even when it was necessary, especially when it was necessary. Contact the damaged Dominion ships, ordered. Offer medical assistance. We may be enemies, but we don't leave wounded to suffer. The alien commander heard this and his 4 eyes widened in surprise. You would help us, after we tried to destroy you. The battle is over, said simply. Now we help those who need it. That's what humans do. We fight when we must, but we also show mercy when we can. Admiral's voice came through again. Captain, prepare to receive the Dominion commander. We need to discuss terms. This war ends today, but how it ends will determine the future of human-Dominion relations. Understood, Admiral. Dawn's Edge ready to receive. The battle was over. The Dominion had learned what it meant to threaten humanity, but now came the harder part, building a peace that would last. 2 hours after the battle ended, the alien commander stood on the bridge of the Dawn's Edge. He was flanked by 2 guards from his own ship, but they were unarmed. Had insisted on that. This was to be a meeting of equals, not a prisoner exchange. The alien looked around the human bridge with his 4 eyes, taking in every detail. The technology was simpler than Dominion equipment, at least on the surface. The displays were easy to read. The controls were straightforward. Nothing here suggested the incredible power that humanity had just demonstrated. Your ship is small, the alien commander observed, yet it held the key to defeating my entire fleet. Size isn't everything, Myra replied from her engineering station. She had cleaned up and changed uniforms, but traces of oil still marked her hands. A small key can open a very large door. Admiral appeared on the main screen, connecting from the Indomitable. Behind her, the bridge of the Dreadnought was visible, busy with crew members monitoring the situation. Commander, she addressed the alien formally. What is your name? I would prefer to speak with you as an individual, not just as a representative of your people. The alien straightened. I am Commander Vex of the 3rd Scale, Fleet Master of the Dominion Forces, Speaker for the Council of 12. A lot of titles, noted, but what should we call you? Vex will do, the alien said quietly. The defeat had humbled him. The arrogance that had filled his voice hours ago was gone completely. Admiral nodded. Very well, Vex. Let's discuss what happens next. You came here with 300 ships to threaten humanity. You demanded that we stop exploring, abandon our colonies, and essentially imprison ourselves in our home system. That was unacceptable. I see that now, Vex admitted. His scales had returned to their normal purple color, but his movements were slow, tired. My council believed that humanity was too dangerous to allow to expand. We feared what you might become. And now asked. Now I fear what you already are. Vex looked at each human on the bridge in turn. You manipulate space itself. You bend reality to your will. You fight with weapons that should not exist. My species has traveled the stars for 3,000 years, and we have never encountered anything like this. That's because you stopped learning, said bluntly. You found a level of technology that worked and you stayed there, comfortable, safe, unchanging. Added, humans are never comfortable. Even when things are good, we look for ways to make them better. It's in our nature. We question everything, experiment with everything, push every boundary we find. Approached Vex cautiously. Commander, may I scan you? Medical purposes only. You appear to be under significant stress, and I want to make sure you're not suffering any adverse health effects from the spatial distortion. Vex looked surprised but nodded. ran a medical scanner over the alien, checking vital signs. Your primary heart is working too hard. Your stress hormones are elevated. You should rest soon. I will rest when my people are safe, Vex said. I need to know what terms humanity will demand. Will you destroy the rest of my fleet? Will you will you enslave us? Admiral's expression softened slightly. No, Vex. We're not interested in conquest. We never were. We came to space to explore and find new homes. We didn't come to rule over others or to build an empire. Then what do you want? Vex asked, confused. Stepped forward. We want respect. We want recognition. We want the Dominion and all other species to understand that humanity has the right to exist among the stars. We will explore, we will build colonies, and we will continue to expand. Not to conquer, but to survive and thrive as a species. And no one will stop us. The Dominion Council will never agree to unlimited human expansion, Vex protested. You breed too quickly. You build too fast. In a few centuries, you could dominate the entire galaxy. Dominate? Admiral laughed, but it was not a cruel laugh. Vex, let me explain something about humans. Yes, we expand. Yes, we grow. But we don't have any interest in ruling over other species. Do you know why? Because we can barely govern ourselves. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other over resources, territory, beliefs, and stupid reasons. We nearly destroyed our own planet several times. She leaned forward, her expression serious. We learned from that. We learned that different peoples, different cultures, different ideas can coexist. We learned that strength comes from diversity, not uniformity. That's why we don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to share it. Vex's 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that might have indicated disbelief. You expect me to believe that, after the power you just demonstrated? The power we demonstrated, Myra interjected, was defensive. We developed spatial manipulation technology not to attack others but to protect ourselves. Yes, we can turn it into a weapon. Any tool can be a weapon if you need it to be, but its primary purpose is exploration and defense. Brought up a star chart on the main display. It showed human space in blue and Dominion space in red. Look at this map, Commander. Human space is mostly on the edges of the galaxy, in regions that other species considered too dangerous or too poor in resources. We didn't take prime territory from anyone. We went to places where no one else wanted to go, and we made them livable. That's what humans do best. Added, and we're willing to share what we learn. The spatial manipulation technology that just defeated your fleet. We'd be willing to teach the basic principles to the Dominion. Not the weapons applications, but the navigation aspects. Think about it. Ships that can fold space and reach distant stars in days instead of months. That technology could benefit everyone. Vex stared at the humans as if seeing them for the first time. You would share such knowledge with those who tried to destroy you. Under certain conditions, yes, Admiral confirmed. First, the Dominion must formally recognize humanity's right to explore and colonize unclaimed space. Second, the Dominion must withdraw all forces from human territory and establish neutral zones along our borders. Third, both sides must agree to a non-aggression treaty that includes mutual defense clauses. And fourth, we establish trade and cultural exchange programs. You want to trade with us? Vex asked, still confused. To exchange culture. Smiled. Commander, think about what makes it beautiful? What makes it unique? Its history, its art, its music, its stories. Every species has something valuable to share that isn't about technology or weapons. Humans are curious about other cultures. We want to learn from you, and we want you to learn from us. That's how civilizations grow stronger together. Offered Vex a drink of water in a container suitable for the alien's physiology. Vex accepted it cautiously and drank. The simple act of human kindness seemed to affect him deeply. I need to contact my council, Vex said finally. I need to tell them what happened here. They need to hear these terms. Use our communications system, Admiral offered. We'll give you privacy, but Vex, I want you to tell them something else. Tell them what you saw today. Tell them that humans are not monsters or conquerors. We're survivors, we're explorers, we're teachers and learners. We can be friends and allies, or we can be enemies. The choice is theirs. Vex nodded slowly. I will tell them, but I must also tell them the truth about your power. The Dominion needs to understand what humanity is capable of. We're counting on that, said. This demonstration today wasn't just for the Dominion. Word will spread across the galaxy. Other species will hear about what happened here. They'll hear that 300 ships surrounded one human vessel, and they'll hear what happened to those 300 ships. That message will echo through every alien council, every military headquarters, every government in known space. And what message is that? Vex asked. Admiral answered, her voice clear and strong. That humanity is not prey. We're not victims. We're not a young species that can be bullied or controlled. We're human. We turn hostile environments into homes. We turn impossible problems into solved equations. We turn the sky itself into our ally. Anyone who threatens us will learn what it means to fight a species that conquered the harshest planet in the known galaxy. Myra shut down several of the spatial distortion satellites, allowing some of the Dominion ships to regain normal navigation. It was a gesture of good faith, showing that humanity was serious about peace. Over the next hour, Vex spoke with the Dominion Council. The conversation was private, but through the walls, the crew of the Dawn's Edge could occasionally hear raised voices. The Council was not happy. They had lost, and losses were hard for proud species to accept. Finally, Vex emerged from the communications room. He looked exhausted but also relieved. The Council has agreed to your terms, he announced. All of them. The Dominion will withdraw from human space. We will establish neutral zones. We will sign the non-aggression treaty. And yes, we will begin trade and cultural exchanges. And the spatial navigation technology? Myra asked. That will take time, Vex admitted. The Council is nervous about accepting anything from humanity right now, but they agreed in principle. Once trust is established, the sharing of knowledge can begin. Extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. Vex looked at it curiously, then reached out with his own three-fingered hand. The two beings from different worlds, different evolutionary paths, shook hands. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. There will be problems, Vex warned. Not all species in the Dominion will accept this easily. Some will see this as humiliation. There may be individuals or groups who refuse to accept the peace. We understand, Admiral said. Peace is always harder than war. War is simple, you fight until someone wins. Peace requires trust, patience, and continuous effort, but it's worth it. Over the following days, the human and Dominion fleets worked together to rescue survivors from the damaged ships. Human medical teams, led by officers like, helped treat injured aliens. Myra and her engineering teams assisted in repairing Dominion vessels that could be saved. The former enemies became temporary allies in the effort to save lives. Commander's fighter squadron escorted damaged Dominion ships to safe zones. Lieutenant Jin coordinated with alien weapons officers to safely disarm unstable reactors on crippled vessels. Across both fleets, humans and aliens worked side by side, and slowly, grudging respect began to form. 2 weeks later, the Dawn's Edge finally headed home. The ship that had been bait in a trap, the ship that had held the line against 300 enemy vessels, returned to human space as a symbol of something new. On the bridge, looked at his crew, young faces that had proven themselves in the most extreme circumstances imaginable, who had navigated through twisted space, who had coordinated weapons in impossible conditions. Myra, whose engineering genius had made the victory possible, who had shown that mercy was as important as strength. You should all be proud, he told them. What we did here will change history, not just human history but galactic history. We showed the universe what humanity stands for. And what's that, sir? Asked. Thought for a moment before answering. We stand for the right to exist, to explore, to learn, to grow. We stand for the idea that hostile environments don't defeat us, they make us stronger. We stand for the belief that any species, no matter how young, has the right to reach for the stars. And most importantly, we stand for peace when possible, but strength when necessary. As the Dawn's Edge traveled through the stars toward home, its crew didn't know that their story was already spreading across the galaxy. The tale of how one small human ship, surrounded by hundreds of enemy vessels, had not only survived but had turned the very sky against its attackers. Some species heard the story and felt fear. Others heard it and felt respect. A few heard it and felt hope. Maybe humanity would be the ally they needed. But all of them understood the same message. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again. The species that had conquered Earth, a world of ice ages, storms, diseases, and disasters, had proven that they could conquer space itself. The sky had turned against the Dominion fleet that day. And the sky, as humans had always known, belonged to those brave enough to claim it.